PG people, I could tell the colors, right? Is that sort of like they can pick you out that way? How are you guys? My name's Ken, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Ken.
Sorry, wrong meeting. My bad. So I was a professional comedian in the late 80s, traveling around the country, making people laugh, and I started seeing more and more people becoming homeless in the streets. I'd been homeless at one time in my life, so when I read a statistic that 60% of the homeless in Toledo were families with children, something snapped. It was unconscionable that kids could be on the street. So I started the little tent city thing in 1990. It also was the year that I got sober, because when you go out and you do good, as we all know, something changes, and it did. In 1994, I started my own headhunting firm and an executive search firm for the electronic document industry. It was a technology industry, and as it grew, we did very well, allowed me to become a philanthropist. In 2007, a singer guy named John Mellencamp came down to our little tent city thing, and he was on his way to a show, and he was just going to stop for a quick minute, but he ended up staying over an hour. And we bonded really, really well. He invited all of the guests to his show that night. And one of them came back after and said, "John talked to us from the stage. I guess I really do matter." And that's how One Matters as an organization began. Then in 2012, we were doing a blitz. I do blitzes with the VA, where we'll go into the woods and the abandoned buildings and look for people who are homeless. And my friend with the VA, Sean Dowling, told me that that some friends of mine that were homeless veterans couldn't get housed because they didn't have a deposit. And I said, "Really? How much?" He said, $600. And I said, "So if I wrote a check for $600 right now, how soon could they be housed?" And they said, "Immediately." And I said, well, what do you do when you don't have the deposits? She goes, "We do everything we can, including taking them to the churches and VFWs and helping them beg for it." And that broke my heart. Just like 60% of the homeless in Toledo were families with children, something snapped. I asked her how many. She said 35 veterans will be coming in and needing deposits. And so that night, I thought this was unconscionable. Simple problem, simple solution. Pay the deposit straight to the landlord. Done, right? All I needed was $26,250 to be able to do it. So I called Barb Petey with ProMedic and said, "Barb, I need $26,250. And by the way, I need it at Black Ops speed because veterans are waiting." And you all know how fast foundations go normally, right? The VA and the government moves faster than that. But in this case, 7 days later, Valentine's Day, 5:36 p.m., she called and said, "You have your full funding." 3 days after that, we housed our first veteran. 11 days from idea to execution, to housing our first family out of family house. Fast forward to today. 3 years later, we have now housed 1,074 veterans in 11 states, thanks to the helps of 20-plus celebrities who have gotten involved, and the National Exchange Club, which is building a national campaign with us with the 11-11 at 7 rallies. After I found enough to house the 35 local veterans, it was all cool. I was pretty much done. I went back to my day job because I had what we had. We could make the deposits. We'll get the veterans housed. But I got angry because there were 60,000 soldiers on the street, so I thought I'd do something about it, and I decided I was going to make some PSAs. So I called some friends, and Dusty Hill with ZZ Top happened to be in Detroit the next week, so he said, "Sure." We went up there, and we're filming this PSA in the middle of it. He goes, "Ken, this is really nice, but what's it for?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, I'd like to go start one of these back in Houston." And as a comedian, I've met all the celebrities, and they're really nice people, and they want to help just like we do. We'll meet somebody, and we'll say we're going to do something, or we'll get pumped up. We go back to our real-world jobs, and we forget. That's normal. So I didn't take any stead in it. But 2 days later, his wife called and said, "No, he's serious." So they flew me down to Houston. We convened a group of business leaders. And because Dusty wanted it expanded to Houston, they have now raised over $250,000 down there and are about to house their 500th Texas veteran. John Mellencamp became chair of Operation Indiana. The same day he became chair, we got an anonymous donation of $37,000 to house homeless veterans. Today, actually yesterday, Indiana housed their 100th veteran. So what's so cool about Veterans Matter is we're doing God's work, because this is how I know. I got a call from the Detroit VA, and this is just one of many, many, many examples. I get a call from the Detroit VA saying, "Hey, we have an urgent need. We have 100 veterans that need help. Is there anything you could do?" And I said, "Well, great, I'll do what I can." So somebody at my church knew this guy named Mitch Albom in Detroit, so I figured I'd check with him, get his number, and call Mitch next week, see if he'd help. So on Wednesday, though, before that, a guy named Dr. Chad Audi with the Detroit Rescue Mission called me. And he had been referred to me by Mike Stoops of the National Coalition for the Homeless. And he wanted advice on fighting some federal funding cuts. So I spent about an hour and a half with Dr. Audi, and we came up with some really good ideas. And at the end, he said, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Blah, blah, blah, headhunting and little veterans program." And some guy named Mitch Albom from the Detroit VA, he goes, "You're not going to believe this, but I handle all of Mitch's charities." Mitch, I'm sure, would love to be the chair for it, and I'm sure that he'd like to give you $10,000 to kick it off. You can't make that up. Since he's given us $30,000 for Operation Michigan, along with money raised by Katy Perry and Kid Rock and a wonderful corporation called Jordan Reeses in Ann Arbor, we've now housed almost 200 veterans up there because people care. It's an amazing program. It's so simple. What we decided was not really to create a nonprofit. That wasn't our idea. The idea was just to house 35 veterans, and then it was just to help Dusty house the ones there, and then it started expanding. So I created this online cloud-based system, which the way it works is the VA, are you guys sitting down? Good, because the VA has a really good program. I just didn't want you to fall when you heard that. And it's their homeless HUD-VASH program. And the way it works is they provide long-term rent, long-term housing to homeless veterans. Veteran pays a percentage of their income, and unhoused veterans who have no job pay about $50 because they get connected to an income, and that's it. But what makes this so cool is that once they're housed, the VA social workers work with them to take them back to domestic autonomy and financial autonomy. They work with them. So it's not a program where they're just throwing people into places. They're putting people in and then working with them to try to move forward to get where they need to go. We didn't try to create a program. It just happened. To understand it in the simplest terms, the way it works is we take donations and pretty much shuffle them straight to landlords as deposits to house veterans. Less the program costs, which are 10 or 15%, depending on the revenue. More revenue you got, the expenses percentage is lower. Less revenue, it seems higher. But they're still the same expenses because, again, we didn't want to create a nonprofit. We wanted to create a way to get veterans housed, period. We're very, very good with the money. We're very cheap. For the Houston convention, I'm panhandling frequent flyer miles from corporate executive friends of mine, and so far I've gotten 2 covered because we figure 4 tickets to get to Houston is 6 veterans that we can house. And that's sort of how we work. And what's so amazing about this is people all over the country are coming together as individuals. It was amazing to see everything that's going on with Exchange nationwide as far as helping us come together. That connection was kind of cool how that happened too. Tracy and Steve had been coming to our little events for several years, our walks and our tent city. And just by way of history, Steve Edwards, her husband, was one of the people that when I was homeless took me in. And I worked for their little bands, their roadie thing, and that kind of crazy stuff. That's how small this world really is and how full circle we go. And so the idea of creating a program and using Veterans Matter as a program that you guys can use to revitalize your organizations and your clubs, to revitalize ourselves. Because what happens is we're getting old. I don't know if y'all notice that. And if you're anything like me, you get tired from being old and doing the same things. And you keep wanting new blood and new energy. And that's what Veterans Matter was designed to do. We saw a miracle happen at 11/11 and 7. And we're in the process of doing a video right now showcasing everything that you guys did. Because in Toledo, for the first time ever, 4 clubs came together in Toledo to pull off an event, and a 5th club came up from Fremont to be able to contribute. It was an amazing thing, and we're calling it the Unity Model, and we're doing a video that we're going to show at Houston. And we interviewed some people with the different clubs that participated in this. And the way it worked, for those that don't know, is the Toledo club handled a chili cook-off. And then we had the Greater Maumee Bay, which handled fundraising, which was the war bonds and 50/50s and that kind of thing. The West Toledo Club did the silent auction, and then the Maumee Club did the bake sale, which ended up, they were so good, they ended up being bake-free. So, and then from Fremont, all the way from Fremont, they drove up, give them a round of applause, to give $1,500. In all, in that one night, $7,500 was raised to house veterans in that one night. Now, the cool thing is, only half of the people that attended were Exchange-ites. The other half were people from all over, new people that got exposed to what we do. So what we're doing this year with Exchange is we're having all the clubs try to work together in that unity model. We're pushing that and have an 11-11 at 7 rally this year. But in every single one of their meetings, they have a scheduled 11-11 at 7 committee meeting at the end of their regular meeting. And what we're doing is we're inviting people in the communities who are tied into veterans groups, who do anything with veterans, to say, hey, come and tell us what you do about veterans and hear about this 11-11 at 7 rally. So now you're building this organization, not of just Exchange-ites, but everybody in your community who cares about veterans, to build a big event on 11-11-7. Some of the some groups, like down in Houston, they're in the process of getting a House of Blues and some national talent to be able to come in and perform. So they're putting that together, and all of the clubs are going to come together on that to help pull that event off. And in Houston, by the way, while we're down there, we've done so many veterans housed down there that we're going to have some of the veterans that we've housed come to the convention as our guests, and then some of the VA social workers too. So people can see in real terms what you're really doing and the impact that you have. We have a 100% success rate. Every dollar that comes in that goes to a deposit has a 100% success rate housing a veteran. It is so simple. It is so simple. And what happens is people seem to make things complex. It's not. It's not. There are people out on the street that don't have to be if we pay their deposit, so we pay their deposit. It's amazing. And with Exchange, in that partnership within your clubs, I was just, this morning I was down in somewhere. Thanks, Northern Indiana, for my next trick. And so what's so cool is they're going to use this because Northern Indiana and Southern Indiana are uniting, becoming one. So they're going to use this as their originating platform to be able to get all of the state involved. We already have an operation in Indiana, so it's going to be a natural fit in what they're doing. Your events can be as big or as small as you want. We, again, want to have a unity model. We're going to be having a bigger place. We're thinking bigger. So we'll be having a meeting shortly of the different clubs. We'll invite people that want to participate and help with this year's event to be able to come in. And everybody's welcome from all over. If you guys have, for the other southern areas, Findlay, Fremont, the other outlying areas, if you need somebody to come and talk, if you're desperate and you have no budget, I'm usually the one you call. I'm here today. But it's so cool. So the Veterans Matter program, once it started launching, then we started getting all this help from all these celebrities that have been getting involved, that have helped done, rented lips. That have helped done, we've had all these wonderful celebrities who have helped us in putting videos together to help promote Gary Sinise. We filmed Hart, Dusty Hill, John Mellencamp. All these different artists are getting involved. Mitch Albom. Gary Sinise was really fun. He's got a nice video. He does something with Exchange too. He really cares about veterans. Did you guys know Gene Hackman was still alive? I didn't. We've got a PSA from him now, so I believe it. We do. And here's the shocking thing. It is the most popular one on views on our YouTube channel. Go figure. Thought he was dead. We even got P.J. O'Rourke, who's popular for those that like political wit. Sorry, Jim, it's something that, never mind. I know.
You laughing so like that one. They don't need something.
Of course I will. That's how it works. Now I've got some American propaganda here too that kind of explains. You want to do some? Explain it for you? Explain it? Get some pieces out of it. And that kind of gives you a quick overview. Our website, veteransmatter.org, or just Google Veterans Matter Exchange will come up. Exchange will come up too, but the Veterans Matter website will come up. And what we're going to do this year is we want to share a lot of the good things that are happening, so we want to be better at that. So we're creating a NEC Action Network. On our website, you'll be able to register to get updates. And what we're going to ask people to do is share what you're doing. We'll send it out to everybody else. So any good ideas that people get, we'll be able to share within the different groups. Like one of them we did last weekend, we did a Silver Star event. There's a company, Jordan Reese's, that last year gave us $40,000. See what I'm talking about? Oh, don't get up.
Thank you, Jim.
There you go. Extras. Do you have a club? Pass it on to you next week.
I have 123 clubs, yeah.
Oh, you're like highfalutin. You're like, we're just falutin. Down here, yeah. So like, I always wonder, like, how come we don't recognize the falutin people? Right? Like, and where is that measure where you become highfalutin? Right? Am I saying? Anybody know?
Colorado.
Colorado? Well, that's highfalutin. Really?
Take it over for you.
That was brilliant. So in the comedy world, you have laughter, you have silence, which I'm used to, and then laughter. And if you look at like all the shows, the highest esteem that you can get in comedy is what's called the applause break. And if you notice, your joke right there just got an applause break. So that was a brilliant, brilliant joke. And I don't kiss
You need
hands.
something, that's all I'm there for.
You were there. You saved me from the. Yes, sir.
Tim, I'm from California, by the way, and Tustin Club just took on a project that kind of mirrors yours, but takes it a little bit further. They somehow got a hold of all the barracks of the
All the what? I'm sorry?
They got a hold of all the barracks on an old Air Force base.
Right.
Went in, renovated them all, made 3-bedroom condo type things out of them. And they take a veteran, a homeless veteran like you, put him in this condo, give him everything he needs and his family for 1 full year till he gets a job, and then he has that amount of 1 year after that to get himself established, and he has to move out, so the next one can
That's a
move
cool
in.
program. Well,
Yeah.
what happens if they're not done in a year?
They're almost all done. They're usually done. They usually have a job within 4 to 5 months. And
So
then
is
they
there
have
some sort
the
of
6
front,
months.
is there some sort of front-end quantification then, the selection of who?
No.
Because I know some homeless veterans that will never be able to work.
Yeah,
So there has to be, if they're,
they have to qualify to be able to have a job.
because what could happen is they're, the ones that don't get the housing vouchers, because California's got a special problem because the housing costs are so
Oh,
high.
we got lots of them.
Yeah.
One of them is Jerry Brown, but go ahead.
We don't get involved in politics. We think the right and the left are both beautiful and coming together. Veterans are the only thing that Congress has ever come together on, so we don't blame, either side. But California has a different, we housed one veteran in California, and that was a special case basis. The problem that they have in California is excuse me, I almost told you. Come here often? I blew that one, he's not coming back. But mayors in California are putting out notices and programs begging landlords to take veterans in. So that's a really good program that they're doing there. Locally, we opened up a facility here for 75 units called Commons in Garden Lake. And probably one of the best days of my life was on New Year's Day when the One Matters team got to help 10 or 12 veterans move into their home for the first time. There were a lot of tears, family members there. It was really, really powerful to see the work that this community does to be able to house the veterans. And because we don't often get to see that, feel that, and touch that, because we created a system that just gets it done. Highly efficient, highly low cost. And it's because we believe that what we need to do is take care of our own. Now, at the end of last year, just for transparency and on a personal note, last year, at the end of last year, I closed my business to be able to do this full time. And the reason is because when you own a company, it's sort of like my business, like anybody else's. When you do the work, right, the revenue comes. That's how business works. You do this work, revenue comes. But last year I didn't get to do the work because I was doing God's work. So I ended up having to put, this isn't for TV.
Can you say it louder? I'm sorry.
So I ended up having to put $25,000 of my own money into my company just to get through the year, and I couldn't afford to do that again this year, so there was no choice. You have a choice in God's plan. Either you go do what He says, or you do what you want. And
Me and my wife love Hawaii. And we want that. But we know when we're doing the right thing. When you have situations like Mitch Albom, people calling us. When God's saying, yes, go do that. When Exchange gets involved. When you have these rock stars saying, oh, hell yeah, I'll help you. Then you know you're doing a thing that needs to be done as Americans, as people, as humans, and for your faith. One of the things, how much time is do you know what time it is?
It is 3:44.
Oh, thanks. Oh, no hurry. How you doing? Nice to see you. How you been? I say hi to you. How you been, man? Long time. What have you been doing?
Just been hanging out.
Hanging out? Yeah. I'm on a union break. Let's do this. I love this guy.
Break's over.
You're still in control, Jim.
Buster.
Surprise, surprise.
It's funny, in my normal, for those who saw me at Columbus at the convention, I mean, in my normal talks, I talk about the power of one to give, the power that we have inside of us. And there's nothing more powerful than the feeling you get when you do good. Now, I believe that God is already inside each and every single one of us, whether we believe it or not. I believe that no matter what your faith is, if you are satanic, I can prove to you that God is already inside you, whether you like it or not. And it's like this. Have you ever gone and done something for somebody else expecting nothing in return? How did it feel? Every time? Very good. Every time. And that's that power of good, the power of God that's already inside each and every one of us. And it's funny because as an alcoholic and an addict, I looked for pleasure. And now, this pleasure I get out of doing good, I just wonder why everybody's not addicted to it. Because it is. It's so wonderful and it's so powerful. And what it is God. Now, what we do is give people the opportunity to join us to house veterans and get that good feeling. Now, everybody is called to something. Everybody is called to a mission where they can do good. For some, it's veterans. For others, it's child abuse prevention. For others, it's MDA or cancer, and all these wonderful causes out there that need you to be involved. What our job is as clubs is to get the word out about what we're doing with Veterans Matter and what we're trying to do so that those that are called can come. And when they feel good like we do, when they house a veteran, when they see it. Did you see him beam when he was talking about the 10 veterans that were housed? That was so beautiful. That feeling. And that knowing that in that tent was a mom and a dad and their 3 kids that were freezing the night before in a car. The little kids shivering against their mom, and a mom trying to hold them in and keep them warm. And that's the result of the giving, the support, the focus. Our slogan, Veterans Matter, we take care of our own, and it's because we can and we should. When we were filming Dusty Hill, he said, we thank you. He said, well, it's the least I can do. And we started talking, and we started to think of that if we all did just the least, which is so much more than nothing, that we'd solve this problem if we all just did the least. So we ask you, think of what the least is you could do for the veterans, those who wore the uniform, those who served. And do the least. Whether it's helping us get the word out, adding, supporting our Facebook, just show it. We've got 20 plus celebrities, celebrity advocates who have videos on our website. If you have a favorite, share that. Message them. Thank them for helping to support veterans. Let them know that Exchange is behind it 100%. Help do the things when they get the word out that tell the local communities that Exchange is the organization that's standing up to take care of the veterans. Because they need it. And you're going to be hearing a lot, you have ended veterans homelessness. And what that really means is we've created a system that can end it for anybody who becomes unhoused. And Veterans Matter is part of that system, that solution, as is the VA and the HUD-VASH vouchers. That's part of that solution. So when you hear that, know that we've ended veterans homelessness for everybody that was homeless on that day. other than the ones we know. Because we've got some friends, anybody that's from Toledo probably knows our friend Garage Charlie, which we call him that because we did a blitz and we found him living in a garage. And we did everything we could to help him. He's downtown a lot, he panhandles, and when you tell him no, he gets angry, so you'll know. He's got a bicycle usually and a flag on the back. And depending on whether or not he's medicated, is the difference between him being a really nice guy or not. But he's so angry, he won't be housed until he deals with that issue. But he's going to be a homeless veteran, so he's going to be a number, he's going to be a statistic. But to us, he's Charlie. And to us, we're going to wait for him. I call people like that not yet. Because people say, oh, the homeless want to be there. You know, they want to drink, they want, you know, alcoholism and addiction is like gravity. It keeps pulling you back. And to understand that gravity, has anybody in here ever tried to quit smoking? Anybody ever tried to lose weight? Hey, yeah, you know that gravity that pulls you back to that ice cream? That's the same gravity of all addictions. And so what we've done is, as Americans and as a society, is we've created a wonderful system that can and will end veterans' homelessness. When we started, it was at 60,000 soldiers. The last count was 47,355. I believe that the numbers this year will be in the low 30s and probably even in the 20s. Still needing to be housed. And we're only going to be able to end homelessness when we end the things that cause it. When we end war. When we end poverty. When we end mental illness. And I say poverty because 40% of the veterans that we've housed have been homeless because of a lack of a job. I'll end with this one story. I had the pleasure of hanging out with this guy, and then we can do questions and answers. If anybody has any, or like winning lottery numbers or whatever. But when we started Operation Indiana a couple years ago, we housed veterans, and normally we don't interface with them at all. There's no need to. We just get into our job and get out. For those that were in the military, we clear the landing zone, and then everybody else can come in and do their job after we've got the zone clear. And so we got a guy housed, and I got a handwritten note from this guy. It says, "Thank you, sir, and the outfit you work with for helping get housed. Anything I can do to help, let me know." And how cool is that? So I called him. And he's crazy. He's just like me. He's unhinged. He's off the wall. He's profane. He's honest. And so we hit it off really, really well. And we talked, and he'd send me pictures of, see, his story is he was a steel worker, worked up high in the cranes, right? And in South Bend, Indiana, in 2008, when the economy crashed, there was no work. Nobody was building anything. They couldn't do anything with a steel worker. He went on unemployment. When that ran out, he blew through his savings. And then when that ran out, his wife left him, and he lost his house, and he went on a walk. He just didn't know it was going to be for 18 months. And he alternated between living in the city, and then when the cops got too tough, he went out and lived in the country. And he talked about how the veterans, you could tell when there are other homeless veterans, because they had a certain way that they would come together as a corps. And they'd keep their eye out and be able to flee and elude when necessary. And he told me stories about how the police would beat up homeless people just for no reason whatsoever. And when that would happen, then he'd go back out in the country. And how he would, when he was in the service, he was a frontline guy, so he had all these mad skills. So, like, for example, for meat, for when he wanted birds, he would take a mouse trap and put it in the water and put some grain on it. And then when geese would go down to get, so then he'd cook up some bird. I told him I think he was raised by wolves. He is the greatest guy. His name's Robert Pulliam. So now he's back employed, right? So the economy turns around, he's employed. He's sending me pictures from his office, which was like one time the top of a skyscraper at Notre Dame. He was building the new football stadium there. And I got a call from one day saying, what's your address? And I said, well, why? He goes, well, I want to repay the money that you guys gave me so you can help another veteran. And I said, Berg, this is his nickname, Berg. I said, no. That's a gift from us Americans who say thank you for what you did, for standing out there and taking it for us. And he loved that. He said, well, whenever you need something, you let me know. We had this event last week in Ann Arbor, and I asked him if he wanted to come and hang out, and he did, man. He's just like the coolest guy. So I told the attire was business casual, right? So he came in camos, a do-rag, and a T-shirt that says USMC, which was his business casual. And he's a wonderful guy, and everybody loved him, and I love it. But what it does is it takes, we talk about homeless veterans. These aren't just homeless veterans. These are people like the family that was freezing in their car. These are real people that you guys have helped and are helping. The money, how many were involved with our 11-11 to 7? What did you guys think?
I'm from Toledo, so I was there with you at the chili
So-
cook-off. I made chili for you.
Yes, explain to everybody else.
We had a big chili cook-off, and people got to vote on it, and there was music and entertainment, and we raised money for Veterans Matters. As David said, we were able to house veterans in Toledo. It was great.
It was. What about your side?
I was from the Greater Maumee Bay Club, and I actually was working in Veterans Matters at the time, and I worked the table, having people come in, and I also was in charge of if people wanted war bonds to signify honor or in memory of a loved one, taking care of that.
Amen. Any of you guys did?
Silent auction. We had, and all the clubs helped donate items. I had, Greater Maumee Bay had some crafty people in their club, and they made things, and we sold.
Crafty people. Yeah, Jim.
The most amazing thing about that was we had never done it before. The fact that you keep saying unity, which is our motto, unity for service. So the clubs work together. So we had no idea. Even at, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock when I went over to the hall and Sean was there, I looked at her and I said, we have no idea how this is going to go. And then 2 hours later, when we opened the door, you couldn't even fit in the building. The response, not just from exchange people, not just from people driving the street, but just the community as a whole, that feeling of support for those individuals that basically gave us the right, the freedom to even have that event was mind-boggling. And all we kept talking about during the event was next year. I mean, from something that was an idea, you didn't know how it was going to go, to the next thought coming into your mind is, we need a bigger hall, and we need to involve more people, which is just phenomenal. To experience that, you can't even explain it. But it was just amazing. I mean, even the American Legion folks, those people, we didn't know who those people were.
Right.
They came part of it, and they were just shocked. Where did all these people?
And there was press too, so Exchanges in the paper is putting the flag in the sand for veterans. Yeah, it was a beautiful. You described it really well, Jim. Thank you. It was really warm. Any questions? Yes.
How much did we raise overall nationally for the 11/11?
For Exchange,
Exchange and or
I think about 50,000 when we include Operation Texas. What they did about 10,000 from their event, and we think it's around 40,000 from Exchange-ites. And money's still coming in, though. I mean, it's so cool. We just put out an urgent call in Indiana because we're down to I think $3,200, and we've got high demand in Indiana. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, so that start, get the money for them, get the houses, put them in there. Then how is it maintained? Do they maintain it themselves?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're talking about people that are highly functional. The ones that are low functioning get support through the VA social workers
Right.
all the time.
Right.
Most of the people can live on their own quite well.
Okay, so you get one house and say 6 guys can live in
No,
it.
no, it's one per individual.
One per
Yeah,
individual.
yeah. It's permanent housing, normal housing for us. It's sort of like Section 8 for veterans.
Okay.
So it's a housing voucher for their own apartment, their own home.
But it's the deposit that is the issue.
Yeah, the deposit's the barrier stopping them from getting in.
They will pay for the monthly rent.
Yeah.
They can't get the initial deposit.
And the normal process, without Veterans Matter, the normal process was to take them around and help them get it from wherever they can. And then they came up with this SSVF program, which they have, that's funded in most areas. The available funding is dependent upon how good their congressional representation is. As far as the amount of SSVF funding is what it is, supportive services for veteran families. But that process, The way it works is the lovely VA social worker helps this homeless person in the shelter or wherever they are, helps them find a place to live. They negotiate with the landlord and they get that all set up. All they need is the deposit. So what she'll do is she'll go online and request from Veterans Matter the $500 deposit to be sent to him. She gets an instantaneous reply saying, yes, approved. $500 to be sent to Jim today. The email sent to her, the veteran, and to the landlord. And because we have 20 plus celebrities that are backing us, a lot of the landlords are saying, great, we'll let them in immediately. No problem. So we're able to move the veteran across the threshold into housing instantaneously. The normal process is the veteran, the caseworker would find the veteran and get the landlord all set up, everything's all good, they're ready to go, and then send the veteran to that other organization where the SSVF people are. So they have to set an appointment now and then be able to go over there whenever they can get in and get their appointment. And then they're going to get a new caseworker, a new social worker, a case manager. They have to put together another housing plan. And when that's approved, the request is sent to their accounting department, which writes the checks every other week, monthly, whatever it is. So the normal process can take 30 to 60 days to get the deposit. And what we're finding is when that happens, the more fragile homeless veterans they disappear into the wind. And a lot of the landlords said, bull, man, I'm not going to wait this long to be able to get a deposit. I can find somebody else and get them in tomorrow. So those two issues were impacting the veterans. There are veterans literally waiting tonight that we could get housed if we had the money. Literally tonight.
Are all the VA people just really clear on the value that you guys...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hang on. By being able to do this instantaneously, as opposed to saying, oh, we already handle vouchers and deposits.
So your job, just looking at it this way, your job is to help this homeless veteran get housed. And you have one thing there that you could hit button send to get instantaneous, or you could send the veteran over there. Which are you going to do?
Well, no.
They love us. They love us. In our funded areas, we are the way to go. Because what we do, not only do we house a veteran, we free up money, that SSVF money, that can be used to prevent another one from becoming unhoused.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It's just that I'm not...
And I'm not with you.
I couldn't decode what our VA people were trying to tell us when we tried to follow.
I don't know if you remember, but we were in correspondence because I was trying to connect with the VA.
Which VA? What city?
Dayton.
Okay. Oh, you guys are Dayton people. All right, yeah.
And they were moving their offices all around. I mean, it was just really convoluted. So I appreciated part of that. But one of the people who I thought would be one of the strongest advocates in our group said, well, the Dayton VA houses people already.
Has what people?
Houses.
Oh, yeah, they do.
House them already, and they don't have to do anything but not drink. And as long as they don't drink, they can go there. So it was hard to convince, having his conversation, it was hard to kind of get the rest of the people on board. I mean, I had, the week before, met a homeless VA, homeless vet in a wheelchair coming to church for a meal. So it's like, I feel like this is where we need to be.
Right.
But I didn't know how to argue.
Well, it's not a matter of arguing, and we don't have to. We've housed, I think, 32 veterans in Dayton, I believe. And that was because of funding that came through Jordan Brees's. Because there was an urgent need there, and we weren't able to rally the clubs in Dayton to raise the funds. So we brought in, I know you tried. You're our heroes.